Welcome back to a new episode. I know many of you use these videos to help you sleep, so before we begin, I thought it would be fun for everyone to say hello and leave a comment letting me know where in the world you're tuning in from. Your engagement really makes this channel special. And hey, if you enjoy getting your nightly dose of thrills and chills with us, why not hit that subscribe button below? It's the best way to never miss out on the latest terrifying tales. So kick back, relax, and let's get started. The antique carousel in the dusty amusement park was a beacon of forgotten joy in a sea of peeling paint and rust. Me, a restoration artist drawn to the faded beauty of the past, and my assistant, Ben, a history buff with an adventurous streak, had signed on to breathe life back into the long-abandoned park. The carousel, with its intricately painted horses and faded calliope music sheets, was a crown jewel in our project. The first night, a low, mournful melody drifted through the abandoned park. It wasn't the jaunty tunes associated with carousels, but a melancholic waltz, carried on the wind like a forgotten lullaby. The melody seemed to emanate from the carousel itself, sending shivers down my spine. The next morning, Ben, ever the optimist, dismissed it as a loose gear or a trick of the wind. But the melody persisted, growing clearer each night. As we worked on restoring the carousel, a chilling detail emerged. Each of the intricately carved horses had a name inscribed on its saddle, names that matched those listed in a faded newspaper clipping tucked under the carousel platform. It was a report on a tragic fire years ago, a fire that claimed the lives of several children during a carousel ride. A cold dread settled over the park. The melody intensified, morphing into a desperate plea, the names of the children woven into the mournful tune. We worked feverishly, fueled by a sense of responsibility towards the lost souls. We meticulously restored the calliope, replacing cracked pipes and worn-out bellows. On the night of the first test run, the park was bathed in the silvery glow of a full moon. With a trembling hand, I inserted the restored music sheet. A hesitant whirring filled the air, followed by a burst of melody. But it wasn't the mournful waltz. It was a joyous symphony, a vibrant carousel tune that filled the park with a forgotten cheer. As the carousel spun, an ethereal light emanated from the horses. We saw them, the children, laughing and carefree, riding their painted steeds. The melody reached a crescendo, and then, with a gentle sigh, the figures faded, leaving behind an air of peaceful acceptance. The next morning, the park was silent, but a newfound lightness filled the air. The carousel gleamed, its faded paint vibrant once more. We continued the restoration with a renewed purpose, knowing that within the laughter of future children playing on the carousel, a faint echo of those lost souls would forever linger, their story etched in the intricate carvings and the joyous melody of the calliope. The grand, decaying Blackwood Hotel loomed over the once thriving mining town like a skeletal monument to a forgotten era. My partner, Ethan, a photographer with a fascination for the macabre, and I, a writer seeking inspiration in desolate landscapes, had stumbled upon the abandoned hotel quite by accident. It was an irresistible siren call, promising stories within its crumbling walls. The air inside was thick with dust and a strange, metallic tang. We navigated the cavernous lobby, its ornate plasterwork peeling at the edges like sunburnt skin. An unsettling silence hung heavy, broken only by the echo of our own footsteps. As we explored further, an oddity emerged. Objects seemed to move on their own. A book toppled from a shelf, a chair creaked as if someone had just vacated it. The first night was a symphony of unsettling sounds, floorboards groaning under phantom weight, whispers flitting through the drafty hallways like disembodied voices. Sleep was a fragile visitor, chased away by recurring nightmares of figures clad in old-fashioned mining gear, their faces obscured by darkness. Ethan, fueled by morbid curiosity, became obsessed with capturing the hotel's spectral residents on camera. He set up elaborate night vision rigs, determined to document the paranormal activity. One evening, a faint melody began to drift through the air. It was a haunting waltz, played on a tarnished piano in the grand ballroom. Ethan, mesmerized, rushed towards the source. I followed, a knot of dread tightening in my stomach. The ballroom was bathed in an ethereal, blue light emanating from the antique piano. As we approached, the melody reached a crescendo and then, silence. Ethan, camera poised, looked around, disappointment etched on his face. But as he lowered his camera, I saw it, a faint luminescence outlining a figure seated at the piano, a woman in a long, flowing gown. It shimmered for a fleeting moment before dissolving into the darkness. A cold wind swept through the room, extinguishing the blue light and leaving only the echo of the melody hanging in the air. Panic surged through me. This wasn't a playful haunting, it was something more profound, something sorrowful. Researching the hotel's history, we discovered a tragic tale. During a mine collapse years ago, a young woman, the owner's daughter, was trapped and lost. Her spirit, it seemed, remained, forever playing the song she was performing the night of the disaster. Ethan, once fixated on capturing proof, felt a profound shift. We decided on a different approach. We procured a grand piano and had it delivered to the abandoned hotel. On a moonlit night, we played the haunting waltz, filling the ballroom with the melody once more. As we finished the last note, a sense of peace descended upon us. The whispers ceased, replaced by a quiet acceptance. Leaving Blackwood Hotel, we felt a weight lifted, a sense of closure granted to a restless soul. The grand, decaying structure remained, a silent testament to the past. But for us, it no longer held just stories of sorrow. It held a melody of remembrance, a whisper of peace carried on the wind. The abandoned radio station, perched on the desolate cliff overlooking the churning sea, had an undeniable allure. Me, a freelance podcaster specializing in the unexplained, and my partner, Alex, a sound engineer with a knack for the creepy, felt an inexplicable pull towards it. We envisioned chilling EVPs, electronic voice phenomena, and a thrilling episode for our podcast, Whispers from the Static. The station was a husk of its former glory. Dust motes danced in the shafts of sunlight filtering through boarded windows. Rusted equipment and peeling posters of forgotten DJs adorned the walls. A constant, low hum emanated from somewhere deep within the building, adding to the eerie ambience. The first night, a restless unease prickled my skin. As I set up the recording equipment, a sudden gust of wind ripped through the building, slamming a heavy door on the far end of the hallway. The bang echoed through the empty space, sending a jolt of fear through me. But Alex, ever the pragmatist, dismissed it as a loose window. The real chills started during the recording session. Static pulsed on the frequency, punctuated by an occasional crackle. Then, a voice. A distorted whisper, barely audible, speaking in a language I didn't recognize. Alex cranked up the volume, but the words remained elusive, just out of reach. The whispers continued throughout the night, growing more frequent and desperate. They became a chilling chorus, a symphony of voices rising from the static. A clammy dread settled in my stomach. These weren't random EVPs, they were pleas. Urgent pleas for help. As dawn approached, a new sound emerged, a frantic tapping on the rusted microphone stand. I froze, blood draining from my face. Alex, even more pale than usual, pointed towards an old gramophone in the corner. The turntable was spinning, but there was no record on it. Suddenly, a crackle of distorted music filled the room. It was a haunting melody, an old sea shanty sung in a melancholic tone. As the music played, the whispers intensified, converging into a single, clear sentence. Lost at sea, forever trapped. The music cut off abruptly, replaced by the relentless hum of the building. We packed our equipment in a frenzy, the fear clinging to us like a shroud. Leaving the radio station behind, I cast one last glance at the lonely building silhouetted against the rising sun. The whispers seemed to follow us, faint echoes carried on the salty breeze. Back in the safety of our apartment, we reviewed the recordings. The voice was there, clear as day, repeating the chilling phrase. But it wasn't on the recording we made. It was from an old, unidentified sea shanty that somehow manifested itself on our equipment. We never went back to the radio station. The whispers continued to haunt us in our nightmares, stories of sailors lost at sea, their souls forever tethered to the desolate cliff and the broken promises carried on the static-filled air. We learned a chilling lesson that night. Some stories are better left undisturbed, their secrets forever locked in the whispers of the abandoned. The creaking floorboards of the old Victorian mansion seemed to groan under every footstep. My wife, Clara, and I had inherited the place from a distant relative, a move we thought would be a fresh start. But the air in Blackwood Manor hung heavy with a past we weren't prepared for. The first anomaly was subtle, a book misplaced on a shelf, a portrait slightly askew. But as the days passed, the oddities escalated. Doors would slam shut on their own, whispers seemed to follow us through empty halls, and shadows danced in the corner of our vision. The whispers, though unintelligible, held a chilling desperation, a constant plea for something we couldn't understand. One stormy night, the whispers morphed into a frantic symphony of voices. Clara, pale and trembling, clung to me as the wind howled like a banshee outside. A sudden crash from the library sent shivers down our spines. We crept down the hallway, hearts pounding against our ribs. The library door hung ajar, revealing an overturned chair and a book lying open on the floor. As I picked it up, a chill ran down my spine. It was a meticulously kept diary, dated from the late 1800s. The faded ink spoke of a young woman named Amelia, confined to the mansion by her cruel family. The entries detailed her loneliness, her yearning for freedom, and a chilling mention of a hidden room, a secret passage known only to her. The next morning, armed with the diary's cryptic clues, we embarked on a frantic search. Behind a dusty tapestry in Amelia's room, we found a hidden doorway. Curiosity warring with trepidation, we pushed it open. A narrow, cobwebbed passage led us down into darkness. We clambered down, the air thick with dust and the smell of mildew. The passage opened into a small, forgotten room. A single oil lamp flickered on a rickety table, illuminating a hauntingly beautiful portrait of Amelia. Below it, a single word was scrawled on the wall: trapped. It was then that the whispers reached a fever pitch, filled with a heartbreaking clarity. "Help me," they echoed, a chorus of despair. "Let me go." Understanding dawned on me. Amelia wasn't haunting the house, she was a prisoner within its very walls, her voice trapped for over a century. With trembling hands, I located a hidden latch on the wall, one Amelia mentioned in her diary. As the stone slab shifted, revealing a bricked-up doorway, a wave of relief washed over the room. The whispers softened, morphing into a grateful sigh. We left the hidden room behind, a strange mix of sorrow and relief heavy in the air. The whispers never entirely ceased, but they were different now, softer, more peaceful. We left Blackwood Manor not long after, the weight of its tragic past too heavy to bear. But sometimes, on quiet nights, I swear I can hear a faint lullaby carried on the wind, a whisper of gratitude from a soul finally set free. Rain lashed against the corrugated iron roof of the old lighthouse, the wind howling like a banshee. Sarah, the new lighthouse keeper, huddled deeper into my coat, the isolation gnawing at me. The island, a jagged tooth of rock jutting out into the churning North Sea, was supposed to be a writer's retreat, a chance to focus on my novel. Now, it felt more like a prison cell. The unease started subtly. Flickering shadows in the periphery of my vision, the feeling of being watched. The rhythmic groan of the foghorn seemed to carry a mournful undertone. Then came the dreams. Vivid nightmares of shipwrecks and desolate beaches, the cries of the damned echoing in the wind. One stormy night, as I climbed the winding stairs to the lantern room, a sudden gust of wind slammed the heavy metal door shut behind me. Trapped in the heart of the lighthouse, darkness pressed in on me. Just as panic threatened to engulf me, a soft, lullaby-like melody filled the air. It wasn't a song I recognized, but it was strangely hypnotic, calming the storm within me. Then, an ethereal glow emanated from the Fresnel lens, the giant glass dome at the top of the lighthouse. As I approached, mesmerized, the melody grew louder. The glow intensified, revealing figures etched onto the inside of the lens, figures of sailors, their faces contorted in eternal agony. The melody morphed into a heart-wrenching plea for help. Terror jolted me back. I stumbled back from the lens, the haunting melody ringing in my ears. Sleep evaded me that night, the cries of the sailors echoing in the wind. Dawn brought a fragile relief, but the fear lingered. Researching the island's history, I found a chilling account, a tale of a lighthouse keeper who, driven mad by loneliness in the relentless sea, had lured ships to their doom with a false light. The melody started again that night, louder, more insistent. Armed with a flashlight, I climbed to the lantern room. This time, the ghostly sailors held out skeletal hands, beckoning me closer. The melody morphed into a desperate chant, a plea for release. Understanding dawned on me. The lighthouse wasn't haunted by the victims, it was haunted by the perpetrator, his guilt echoing in the very walls of the lighthouse. With trembling hands, I deactivated the automatic light, plunging the island into darkness. The melody subsided, replaced by a heavy silence. The next morning, a rescue helicopter arrived, alerted by my distress signal. Leaving the island behind, I glanced back at the solitary lighthouse, bathed in the morning sun. The sea seemed calmer, less menacing. Perhaps, with the light extinguished, the restless souls finally found their peace. The island may have been a writer's retreat, but it became a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk within even the most isolated places. And the hypnotic melody of the lullaby, a haunting echo of the past, lingered in the recesses of my mind, a permanent reminder of the night the lighthouse whispered its secrets.